Call Chris Bishop.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. I just want to take a short call to respond to Mr Robertson's remarks. This deals with part 2 of the Act, clauses 10 to 14, dealing primarily with the Income Tax Act. And I just want to rebut this idea that the sort of proposition that Mr Robertson put, which was that basically if someone could borrow at 3 or 4% of the Crown's cost of capital and invest and make a 20% return, that it's lunacy to not do that. Okay? On the face of it, that's true. But let's take off the rose-tinted rear vision mirror glasses and just think the other way, which is, say we had done that, say somebody did go out and borrow at 3 or 4%, or maybe even higher than that, and lost 20%. Not gained 20%, not improved the asset value by 20%, but actually lost. Because that is a conceivable scenario at a time of the global financial crisis when global equities were tanking. It is highly conceivable that the Crown would have lost money. And so it's all very well to look back at eight years on and say, well, we would have made 10%, we would have made this, if only the dastardly national government had not done that. And that's all very well, and I can understand why the Labour Party wants to run that line as a political attack, except for the fact that it is equally plausible that the Crown and the government would have lost 20%, or perhaps even more. You remember, this was a time at which the global economy was in total turmoil. Global equities were tanking. And to say that the New Zealand government should have borrowed money at a time of great global uncertainty to invest in risky assets that were extremely volatile, sir, is naive. And why do we know that what we did as a government was the right thing? Well, Michael Cullen, the Svengali of the left, the social democratic, paramount chief, Mr Chair, when he set up the New Zealand Super Fund in 2002, said that it was only going to be invested in by the Crown at a time of surpluses. It was his attempt to squirrel away the money so that the National Party at the time wouldn't spend it on tax cuts. That's what he said, right? Now, we can argue about whether or not that was right or wrong, but what he said was it was only to be used at a time when we had surpluses, not when the Crown was borrowing to invest in the share market. So the very man that the Labour Party has spent the last 2 hours lauding and continue to bend the knee at all the time and go down to the Auckland Fabian Association to hear from him about how Labour needs to reclaim the political momentum and all of the advice that he gives. That guy, the guy who set up the fund that the Labour Party has benevolently named after him, at least in the vernacular, he himself does not support what the Labour Party is advocating now. And actually, they have form on this, because at some point, the Labour Party had a road to, sort of Princess Street conversion, and they decided that what the National had done with the Super Fund was a good idea, because it was David Shearer, Mr Chair, in 2012, who turned up at the Wellington Employers Chamber of Commerce, and I think Grant Robertson was the deputy then, he may not have been, at least he was a senior strategist inside the leadership team, and he said, and we've decided until we are back in surplus, any new spending will have to be paid for out of existing budget provisions, new revenue, or by reprioritising. That was David Shearer when he was leader of the Labour Party in 2012. So I know they've changed their position now and they've gone back to the typical left-wing orthodoxy, which was the case under Phil Goff and is the case under David Cunliffe and presumably is the case under Andrew Little and will quite possibly be the case under the new leader of the Labour Party, which is Carmel Sepuloni. I know her time is coming, Mr Chair. She's making a run from the second benches, from the whip position, and that sterling work she's doing in social development, railing against vouchers and social development and, the national government's investment approach and trying to get people back into work. I know she's making that run, but anyway, the chair is asking me to shorten it up. But I just want to make the point that the Labour Party is all over the place on this issue. And actually, when it comes to super policy more generally, they're in the middle of a review. Grant Robertson's rampaging around the country with the amusingly titled Commission on the Future of Work. We've got Andrew Little musing Angela were musing about raising the super age or maybe even means testing it. David Clark, just about an hour and a half previously in the debate on the previous part of this bill, said, well, Mr Chair,
I'm going to call up Dr David Clark.
Thank you, Mr Chair.